Good morning, everybody. We're here for another OneWiSH, our International Women's Day event for 2023. This is a day 3 that we've been doing this all week long. So, Christine, what do we got for everyone today?
Well, thank you. We are very excited to have you joining us for this closing session of this amazing OneWiSH event. You know, the past couple panels have been fantastic. Today, we're going to talk to these amazing leaders in health and safety and hear their stories, the challenges that they faced, and their thoughts on diversity and balance. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to ask each of the panelists, and I'm just going to go in the order that I see them on the screen, but I'm going to ask each of them to give us a little bit of an introduction, including how you got to where you're at, and talk a little bit about your leadership style and how it has evolved. And Kathy, I see you first on the screen, so you are up.
Excellent. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Tamara. It's just delighted to be here. So I had to think about what was my career trajectory, and it all started with a degree in chemistry and an aversion to bench chemistry and test tubes and research. So I accepted out of university, accepted a job with a multinational insurance company, and that trajectory started in Virginia in the US. Then I went to our head office where I became a national consultant, and then a UK expat running 5-branch operations in the risk control area. So it was a great introduction to the concept of risk, and kind of my leadership capacity or ability or style is really around collaboration. It's around, I'm a builder. I'm not really good at maintaining, but man, can I build. So my trajectory really took me from the UK back to the US, and that's when I started Global Solutions Incorporated. And I'm the CEO, and I have had opportunities to really work with amazing people, clients as a trusted advisor, companies like GE, Google, BlackBerry back in the day, CHEP, the largest pallet manufacturer in the world. Folks joining us from the US, you'll be familiar with Little Debbie Foods. And I just finished a 4-year stint working with a company called Nucor, so in the steel industry, which was fun. And I guess for me, what I always do, people know me as connecting the dots. And for me and for my work, it is really about helping companies. I always joke about having power without any authority. So we're going to talk about allies later on, but at the end of the day, that's what I do. Especially when you're working with clients, you have to help them understand what the levers are and how they kind of be their eyes and their ears. And I'll share a story later on today about how that actually worked. But that's my trajectory. People also know me. I mean, I'm a global gal, and I've been involved in standards development from ISO 45001 to where I met Isadora on the GRI 403 OSH standard in the world of sustainability. So I've been involved with management systems, globalization, like cutting edge, and now really sustainability, ESG, and that intersectionality with human capital.
Thanks, Kathy. Alicia.
Hello, all. So how I got where I am. I started my studies in mining engineering. So for me, I think from the beginning, it was very important to include safety and integrate safety in everything I was doing. And when I finished my master's degree, actually I got a great opportunity to do safety engineering at CERN, the European Center for Nuclear Research. So even if it was not like my first option in terms of career topic, but of course this was like an amazing thing to do, right? Working at the European Center for Nuclear Research, so I say yes. And after that, what happened was I wanted a job in a multinational, but I was not really sure what I wanted to do, and I sent different CVs, and actually DuPont, the Nemours, that the American ones on the call will know very well for safety, hire me. Interesting enough to do strategic marketing. That was a surprise. But I say yes. I say yes because it helped me learn a lot about the company and areas of the business that I would have never know anything about coming from pure engineering. And then I went into the consulting business. So maybe what describes me is I never say no to challenges, right? I say yes to send me to a project in Siberia, and I say, why not? This is great, probably the first time and only time I will work in Siberia. Why I'm gonna say no to this? And in terms of leadership style, I'm not really compassionate, but I really like helping others. So I always try to help people, and especially women, right? And women in male-dominated environments. That is the area where I feel actually very comfortable with. So I hope I have answered your question, Christine.
Thank you. Isadora.
So, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. So, I'm Isidora Diaz. Like Kathy, I study chemistry, and I started working at university as a teacher and doing research. And I think the reason why I'm here and I'm where we are is because, well, I was working at university. Someone, the boss of my boss, told me, you are not here in order to think. And I thought, my goodness, I'm doing research and someone is telling me I cannot think. So I decided to jump off. So I moved to the private sector. I started working in cement manufacturing and mining. At that time, a sector totally male dominated, but I found amazing people there. Even if I was at that time the first woman working in a cement plant in that country, but I found a lot of people helping me, valuing really my expertise in the area, and I was growing from that. The beginning, I have regional responsibilities, then I moved to a country responsibility. From there, I moved to European responsibility. I moved to Zurich. I'm Spanish. I moved to a role in Zurich, and later on, I moved to Paris for a global role in health and safety. So it was amazing. And then at a certain point in time, someone phoned me and told me, okay, you've been working always in the industrial sector. How about moving now to the leisure and hospitality sector? That is where I work now. Someone was telling me, okay, you are crazy. Are you going to move from the industrial to the leisure sector? But I thought I need to challenge myself. So if I don't do it now, maybe I will not do it. So I decided to take the risk and to try. I'm that type of person that think that you need to try. And if it doesn't work, you can go back. So now I'm working in the leisure and hospitality sector for a Spanish company, but also a global role. About my leadership, I think it has changed for sure since the beginning, but in some cases also you need to adapt your leadership style to the context, and you need to be able to do that. But I think what remain and what is common is the collaboration. I'm really that person that enjoy defining the what and the why, putting the vision. This is what we need to do, and this is the reason, not giving orders. And I like to do it taking into consideration the different views, but I used to give freedom to the people in the team to do it in their own way. I think this is important when you work in a team, to define the why and the what, but give a space to people to do it in their own way. So this is a bit me.
Thank you. That's great. And Carol.
Hello, could you hear me okay? Sorry. So I have some technical difficulty to join, but I'm pleased to be with you. So my name is Carol Smets, and I'm the Global Health and Safety Director for Pernod Ricard, wine and spirit sector. And I moved from several positions from industry to almost 20 years in consulting and consultancy company, and 10 years of that with ERM before joining the industry. With ERM, I moved from principal consultant to partner, the first woman partner after 10 years opening of the office in Paris. Not probably because I was that was not so used to having women partner in the company at that time. So yeah, I moved from consultancy to company to support the client to industry. 1 year ago, I joined Pernod Ricard. After being a consultant, I entered in this company to take a global role, which is a great opportunity from being supporting from a consultancy to being in-house and to basically implement the strategy I've built for this company when I was consultant. In terms of leadership style, I think it's I try empathy, I think collaboration, and I know what I want to achieve, so I'm quite determined. And very often I use the 3 P's: passion, perseverant, and patient. So let's take that as a leadership style.
Thank you, Carol. I love that: passion, perseverance, and patience. That's a great great tool for all of us sometimes. So I want to thank everybody for joining us today. And I do want to ask, as we're going through, if you guys want to have questions for any of our panelists, please put them in the chat. And we will save a little bit of time at the end to have the panelists answer some questions. So next question, and this, Carol, I'm going to ask you to start this one. Talk a little bit about why is diversity and balance at all levels of an organization good for the organization?
Yeah, so I really wanted to comment on that. When I joined Pernod Ricard, I feel like, could I have this role as global health and safety director, or that I legitimate at some point? Very often we have this question, and I was all the interview I had with this company were very open and very supportive with women, and I found that Pernod Ricard is as a really deliberate making place deliberate actions to promote women within the organization. There's a D&I framework that is supported by both Alexandre Ricard, which is the CEO of the company, and Cédric Rama, both men who are human resources, but definitely take actions to promote women within the company. So there's some statistics around that. Promotion of women in the top management, so 500 top manager. The company moved from 20% to 35% women at the top management in 6 years. There's 44% globally, women globally at management and leadership position within the organization, and a strong target to achieve 40%, 40-60% at the top of the organization, global total female at top management. But so when we have this diversity and this opportunity as a woman to grow in an organization, you feel very supportive. When I had the opportunity to speak at the board or at the COMEX, I see around me women who are able to support the organization growing, and so for me, when I have to explain my position and what I want to push as a global health and safety strategy, I really feel comfortable to do so. And so more than that, feel supported by both the women and the men at the top of the organization. So very important. And I wanted to finish with some sentence from the HR. To drive performance, we need to reflect our consumer for Pernod Ricard, and 50% of our customers are women. The moral question aside, it's not about following KPIs or ticking the box in a survey. We are also doing it because we strongly believe that diversity is at the heart of Pernod Ricard's performance as a company.
Wow, thanks, Carol. Isadora, is anything you want to add on that topic?
I cannot agree more on what Carol said. It's exactly the same that drives us as a company in the leisure sector to think we need to have the view of the women, because exactly 50% of the consumers are women. But what I like to highlight is that, as Carol said, we need to have KPIs, but this is not a number game. So there are some companies that believe that they are diverse because they have women, but maybe this is just by chance. So I think apart from the numbers, we need to deep dive and understand certain topics. For example, even if you are 50-50 male, female, what about the salary gap? Is there any salary gap? This is something that we need to put on the table. Or where are these women working? Are they working only in the departments that are the one that typically are considered to be female departments, like HR or customer? And also very important, what for me it's really important because it's about the future. It's not only about the bottom or the average or the top. What about middle management? These are the women that will build the future. So how many of them will we have there? So for me, this is quite an important point when we talk about the diversity, not to play the numbers game and to go deeper and deeper and understand if this is a real diversity with inclusion and with equity.
Great. Alicia.
I 100% agree, especially with Isadora, right? It's not about the numbers. My company is now also looking into equity, and actually the name of the function has changed into that. And I would say it's not even about, the number of women, the gap, gender gap, if there is any, but even about the leadership behaviors, right? If the company is just putting women in some positions but that actually behave in what will be the traditional male way, then you're not solving anything, correct? And I think also the companies, at the end, this makes business sense, right? Your customers are also diverse, and it's not only about women or races or anything. Your customers are diverse. If you want to understand your customers, then you need to have that diversity around the table.
Thank you. Kathy.
Ditto what everyone said. From my perspective, I'm an advisor to companies, so I get to see that from that perspective. And what I'm seeing is it's all about levers, and all of the ladies have talked about it. I mean, at the end of the day, they're business drivers. And that's the decision making that happens in terms of equity, diversity, and inclusion. And so for us, and I think for everyone out there, that is having to have these conversations, or even one-on-one conversations with our leaders. It's about helping them really understand that idea generation, innovation, efficiencies, in terms of the business. Alicia talked about the customers. If your past customers are 50% women and you don't have a sense of what your product or service should look like from a female perspective, and really influencing their decision-making, then, I think Lawrence Webb yesterday said it really well in the OneWiSH session, where he basically said, you can't have a team when you're missing half of your members. So I really smiled when I heard that, was like, yes, spot on. And he's with Costain, so construction industry, which is typically male-oriented.
So true. So true. And just all the comments, right, are just, pay equity, all those pieces, right, are coming out, and we're seeing that. So Kathy, as you went through your career, how do you go about identifying advocates and allies, people that are going to help you move forward in your career?
Okay, so I took this question first because I was terrible at this. That just honestly, I was awful. I'm one of those people that basically it's like, okay, I've got the job. I'm going to project manage that job. We're going to get it done. We're going to do it collaboratively. collaboratively, but I was always taking care of clients, taking care of my employees, that kind of thing. And I never really thought about me. And so people found me initially. I have to tell you, my ASSP trajectory started at a conference. I don't remember which state it was in. And it was a gentleman by the name of Jim Broderick, who was president of ASSP at the time. I think I probably was 28. And he'd say, I remember him sitting me down and saying, now, Kathy, and he's no longer with us, but he sat me down and said, Kathy, you know, I think you have real opportunity here in ASSP. And I kind of looked at him like, what? Because I wasn't even thinking about that in terms of a national kind of going on someday to be president. And it occurred to me that I need to be reaching out, because here was this person who kind of identified me, and he became a great mentor for me. But I wasn't doing the same. So there came a point in time where I decided it was going to be Kathy Seabrook Incorporated, and I was going to have my own personal board of directors. And this is when I started my company, because I really needed to have, a different lens on, I mean, even figuring out what the heck do I want to, consult on. I know it was before management systems. I definitely, because working in Europe, I totally understood the concept of risk, but back in the States, we were hazards and controlling hazards. So, I became the cutting edge person. And I knew that I had arrived when many of these people won't know, but there's a gentleman by the name of Fred Manuel. And honestly, in the US, he's like the father or godfather of risk is what we call him. He's in his 90s now. He's amazing, prolific. He writes, he called me, Seabrook, we need to talk about risk. And I'm like, you get it? And he's like, oh, I've been talking about this forever. So intentionally going out and finding people that can give you perspective. I think this is so important. And for me, this was one of the things I was really terrible at. And just another little tidbit to add on. How do you find those networks? How do you find those people? Well, for me, I just did a lot of work in ASSP. When I moved to the UK, I became a member of the Institution of Occupational Health and Safety. I met incredible people there that actually helped keep me out of trouble in the UK by not saying like words that were not good words to say in terms of two countries divided by a common language. And then just how you get things done. And I think all of us that are in this safety and health profession, I go back to that concept of power without authority, leadership without authority. And everywhere for my whole career, it's always been like that. So it's really important to get to figure out who are the people. And this is organizational change, organizational development 101, but find out who are the people that actually have authority, who are the people that have formal and informal power within your organization and externally to help move whatever your agenda is. And I don't mean agenda in a negative way. I mean, whatever, if it's an incident investigation program, if you're implementing ISO 45001, whatever it is, because you can't do it on your own. And I think that's the most important piece. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And that's systems thinking. And I had to look at myself like that. So OneWiSH, I mean, this is just a great opportunity being more involved in OneWiSH. I've met some amazing people being in standards development. Meeting Isadora, would have never met her. And Carol with our human capital work that we're doing and the summit we did with the Capitals Coalition and L'Oreal. I had an opportunity to meet you. So a lot of times it's just kind of luck, but also being very intentional that in my case, I wanted to be Kathy Seabrook Incorporated and have a personal board of directors.
Thanks, Kathy. I like that, a personal board of directors. Isadora, what are your thoughts? How have you gone about identifying your advocates and your allies?
As Kathy said, I think it's a critical point. I think I was very lucky at the beginning of my career because I found those sponsors, those allies without looking for them intentionally. And I found them not only in the professional world, because I think we need people that support us to progress, both in the professional world, but also in the personal world. Can be your partner, can be your family, can be a friend. And then when the time went through, I thought, okay, this is something that I should offer also to other people, because maybe I've been lucky because, okay, I just landed in one company that was focused on making women in health and safety progress and so on. And this is something that now I try to do very actively, to also be and act as a sponsor for other women or to help them to progress. But also I would say that in the same way that it's important to identify a sponsor, to identify who can support you, is equally important to identify who is a roadblock, who or which situation is a roadblock for you to progress. In some cases, unfortunately, we are the ones that are putting barrier for ourselves, but this is a different story. But even if it is the case, you need to identify that. Or as it happened in my time when that person told me, okay, I do not expect you to be here thinking. If you are not able to identify that barrier, if you are not able to identify that roadblock, then it becomes hard for you to progress. So my point is this: identify a sponsor, but also identify barrier, identify a roadblock in order to overcome them.
Thanks, Carol. I mean, Isadora. Carol, if you could talk about your advocates and allies and how you've identified them.
Yes, I wanted to pile on what Isadora mentioned about being lucky to find people, but because I'm working in the health and safety, maybe luck doesn't exist. We have to manage. So I tend to think, Isadora, that we maybe, without thinking about it, we create the circumstance of this luck, and we have the opportunity to meet those people who were at some point the one who see that we are able to continue and to progress and to take leadership position roles. So I tend to think that's not only because of luck, and yes, I met both men and women, and even recently in my role as global health and safety director, I have my manager. When we discuss about presenting at the board and the COMEX, for me it's always a bit of stress, and he told me, you are thinking that you are an imposter, and you are not. The person who strongly believe that we can achieve this goal or the technical knowledge is you. No one in the board, no one in the COMEX is able to challenge you. So you have to be strong with your position. And that was a man that helped me thinking at some point that, okay, obviously I can make it. Obviously, I know what I want to push. Obviously, I'm comfortable with the direction I want the company to take. So some allies who are advocates who are around us, maybe we know or we don't know. I think we create the circumstance to meet them and to continue progressing. And going back to Kathy, I think network is key. OneWiSH is a great opportunity, and I must admit that I'm not so good at that. So, but I take the point to being better on networking and yeah, using the network to progress my career as well.
Thanks, Carol. Alicia, how about you for your advocates and allies?
Same that the others, especially at the beginning of my career, just maybe luck, right? That someone more senior than me identify and say, I think you're gonna be a great leader, right? But you need maybe some help. With experience, just you identify, at least I was more conscious, right? In identifying what were the gaps and I was having, and then being proactively searching someone that could help me with that gaps. I like networking, and I think building on Isidora, also trying to find people in different areas for the business, or even, sometimes in my case, it's like moms of another girls of my daughter in the school that actually have great experience where I can build on. So now I have become a little bit more targeted to the topics I want to address, and also how I can I can get this knowledge and someone helping me be the sounding board, right, to my ideas.
Thanks, Alicia. So Carol just mentioned about, feeling like an imposter sometimes. And I'm going to start with you, Isadora. How did you fight that, your own biases, your own inner voice that says, oh, maybe I can't do this, to break that glass ceiling and move into this leadership role that you're in?
Yeah, it's true that in some cases, and as I mentioned, it's just ourselves who put barrier for ourselves. So in some cases, can be that you think, okay, I will become a mother, and then maybe people will think that I cannot manage both, that I cannot manage my personal life and I cannot manage my professional life. And they are going to question even if I'm a good person because I have children and I'm working. And this is something that I thought at a certain point in my career, for example, or certain topics like, okay, I think there are stereotypes. Sometimes people tend to believe that women are, let's say, people-oriented, so we should be people-oriented and should be nice with everyone, while men are direct, result-oriented. So if you adopt that type of profile, because it's the way you are, then people will think that you are bossy or that you are not nice. And I've been having some type of these feelings, especially early in my career. What helped me all the time was to talk to those persons that were acting consciously or unconsciously as my sponsors, even to talk to my husband in some cases, just to say, okay, what do you think about this? And then you find that really is your own bias, it's your own stereotype, and it's not what the rest of the world is thinking. And this really helped you to progress. So I think it's quite connected, this idea of having a sponsor and allies to be able to break your own bias and to understand that barriers are barriers that you are putting yourself, but are not really the ones that are there outside. And now during my professional career, my professional life, I try to repeat this plenty of time to all the women that are working with me, because I really believe that the barriers are still there, unfortunately, but that we have the power to break all of them.
Thanks, Isadora. Kathy.
Sorry, I got myself on mute. I think this is a really important thing that we all talk about, because, some people say, well, imposter syndrome and whatever, but it's like to really unpack this. It's like we all have bias, both bias on ourselves as well as bias in everything we do. It is human nature. It's natural. And I think part of how you overcome it is exactly what Isadora had shared in her experience. But I find that I am really good at coaching. I'm excellent at being a mentor. I know this because I have that feedback. But to say that and own my power and be in that, at least in the United States, I can. I've worked in Europe. It's just not, a woman just doesn't say that. The societal expectation. And I have to say, as a woman, working with other women, especially younger women who have come up, and that the bias isn't as much as it is, with kind of how I started out. There was an expectation. I mean, I was the first woman. I always worked with men. And there was this societal thing. I mean, when I had kids, I never talked about my children, ever, because there was this societal bias that Isadora very nicely highlighted, that, I am not going to be confident, competent. I'm not going to be focused on my clients. And so nobody ever knew I had children. I had somebody say to me at one point, who'd known me for years, I mean, like had known me for like 15, 20 years, said, do you even have a husband? Do you have children? I mean, because I just kept my personal life separate from my business life. So, we talk about bias and how and why I actually had that bias of myself. And, you know, the imposter syndrome, I also have to say, and I know all these women in this group, you included, Christine. I mean, at the end of the day, leadership is a very lonely place to be. You don't get attagirls. I mean, you don't get people saying, oh, great job. When you get to that level, if that makes any kind of sense. So that also, you're not getting that affirmation. And so that also ties into that, you know, imposter syndrome and that sort of thing. So I'm like Isadora. It's like, I really need to go out and get outside of my head. And this has happened recently, to be honest, in terms of kind of where I'm going to take my career next. And talk to those mentors, talk to those people that have a different perspective on life. And I am telling you, it's men and women, both. And anyway, that's enough for me. But this is so real, and I'm so glad that we're talking about this.
Absolutely. And I do want to echo what Kathy just said about men and women, because although we're a women's panel are talking about that this week, I think it is important. And most of us here on this panel probably had a male at some point in our career that was that leader, that mentor, that sponsor for us. I know I did, right? I know some of you have as well. Alicia, talk a little bit about this from your perspective, you know, your inner biases.
To be honest, at the beginning of my career, and actually when I was a child, there was not much of this inner bias. I have been lucky to be born and raised in a family that was already, you know, multicultural, multiracial, multi-religious, and everyone super determined and you know, having big careers. And I never thought ever like being a woman or being Black was gonna make a difference for me. So that was good. I never wondered, can I do this being a woman? No one said to me, you cannot be an engineer because you're a woman, right? Or even I applied to the military pilot's school when I was young. No one around me ever said, but you're a girl. Nothing, right? So this helped me a lot. But it's funny that now that I'm more senior, I have more seniority in the career, that's when sometimes I have these doubts, right? Can I make it to the next level? And I'm not sure if maybe it's linked to the fact that there are not so many role models, right? So there are two things: not seeing people like you up there, right? I'm thinking maybe these men, white men in the 50s, have different skills from the ones I have. Okay, could be that one of the reasons why I find that that maybe it's gonna be very difficult to get there. And then what Kathy said, right? Sometimes you don't get feedback and you wonder, I'm not getting feedback because it's very bad, or I'm not getting feedback because it's very good, and you don't know. And you don't know. So I really think it's very important also to have these mentors that help you put it into a perspective, right? And be more objective that you are judging yourself.
Thanks. And Carol, you kind of prompted this question with your comment on imposter, so I'll kind of let you wrap it all up for us and talk about it from your perspective.
And that's very funny because I have the same journey than Alicia. I started with a mother who was at the front of all the battle for women. So I've never. Always thought that everything is possible with the mother and my personal environment. My father was supporting my mother, so I didn't ask myself, am I able or not to do that? But then growing in the organization and taking some position, then you revisit your perspective and sometimes you and maybe you're right, Alicia. It's because of maybe not enough role model. Yet then you start thinking, am I right, or am I taking the right decision? And I strongly battle that with the support of my manager, as I mentioned before, and also because I do that for my two girls. I'm not like Kathy. My two girls are with me on a daily basis, and I say no. I want my two girls to think that, as my mother did for me, everything is achievable, And that's not because you are a woman, that's not achievable. You can do everything you can, that's you are your own limit. So think beyond the limit, and you can achieve all what you want. So I try battling my own bias, thinking about what my mother did for me when I was young.
Thanks, girl. And there was a story put in the chat that I thought was really interesting. If you haven't seen it, from Christina Roll, who commented that she made a decision not to go home and was questioned on that. And, you know, kind of wondering what would it have been different if it was a man? And I kind of echo what Christina said, you know, is would we have said that to somebody that was a guy, right? So anybody want to add any comment on that piece?
I think
Bias.
I think it's very true. There are still some stereotypes that prevent us to do certain things. I will remember when we decided as a family, my husband and myself, because I was offered a job in Madrid. When I was working at regional level, I was offered a job at country level, and it was the right decision for the family, even if at that point in time meant that my husband had to leave his job. And I remember well my father-in-law and my mother-in-law telling us, are you sure that you are going to leave your job because she is going to move to Madrid for a better job? And for sure, the other way around, no one was going at that time to ask us, because okay, if you are the woman, you are supposed to move with your husband, but the other way around is not so common. So as Alicia said, and Carol said now, I hope that my children will grow up and understanding that everything can be possible. In some cases, it's the woman that must support the men, and in some other cases, it's the other way around. But no one goes first. So I assume it's the same for Christina. In another situation, could be the husband who is traveling, and then is the one that is at hospital. I think these things are changing, and I hope they will continue changing into that direction.
I just have to interject that so my children are I have two daughters, so kind of interesting out the girl factors. And they're in their 20s and working in New York City. And the bias is still there. The stories they share with me, it breaks my heart because, you know, I mean, I fought that bias and in pay equity even. You know, we're going to talk about challenges, so I'll keep that, but just the pay equity it's still rampant. And you'd think that it had changed, but it hasn't. So it's systemic. That's what we have to change, the system.
It's still there. So talking about the challenges, and you know, this was a challenge that Christina presented, and we've talked about that a little bit. Alicia, kind of talk about what are the opportunities and challenges that you see for the audience members that are here with us today?
Well, what Kathy has just said, right, is still there. All the differences, all the bias, unfortunately, is still there, right? What Isidora was saying, I'm traveling today, so I'm calling from a hotel. I'm in Amsterdam, I'm not very far. And the first question I get all the time is, who takes care of your daughter, right? And it's like, of course, my husband, right? Because it's not my daughter, it's our daughter, right? So it's actually we're in 2023 and we still get these questions where I find completely stupid, but okay. So that's the challenges, right? And I think maybe the challenge that we should all speak up, right? And speak on every time. I think this will be what breaks the circle. Every time we see any situation, even if it's small, in our companies or in other places that shows this bias and that the barriers are still there, we should all speak up. Because sometimes people make these comments without actually thinking, right? It's just a reflect of what you did in the past. So I think that's key, but they should break the bias.
I love it. Carol.
Yeah, I think we have to continue the journey for our children. I think for the men and the women. And we have to continue this journey for the children, and to speak up, agree. Just an example, I had just at 11:30 today French time a meeting at the school, for my oldest girl, and that was a decision between going to a journey more in the math and physics, or a journey for another direction. And I speak up because most of the teenagers is choosing to go towards math and physics, but most of the women, teenager women, go for another direction. And I speak up, I told the professor, you have to deliberately support the women who want to go in the direction, assuming they want to do it, obviously, but to deliberately support, because a few percentage of the 26 children and women children go in the math and physics when being a woman. So how we want to change the future if we are not deliberate in the decision we take. So yeah, speak up, definitely continue supporting, they're still there. It's for a better performance. It's for everyone being in a better future, a more sustainable future. So we have to take the challenge and continue.
Thanks, Carol. Isadora.
I think we've been talking about the challenges is this unconscious bias and stereotype, the pay gap that still exists, whatever we like it or not. In a certain way, we are fortunate, the one that we live in Europe or we live in the US. I'm coming from Saudi. I arrived yesterday. So amazingly, there are still real challenges for women in certain regions and in certain countries. This is something that really worry me. I think we cannot solve everything, but also we need to put some focus in those countries, even if we are not going to solve everything from day one. But at the same time, I do believe that there are plenty of opportunities. The fact that we are here, yes, openly discussing our own challenges, our own bias, I think is quite important. And I think we need to use those opportunities, acting as role model, trying to sponsor our daughters, our colleagues, everyone around. I used, for example, to participate in schools, just to go there and to talk to other girls. This morning I was at a school, 10 years old, boys and girls that are still open, just to show them that you are a woman, but you can be working in an industrial sector, in health and safety. What is health and safety about? And I think all of us have also a role to play, to find those opportunities, not only for ourselves, but also for the future generations.
Thanks, Isadora. Kathy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes, ladies. Yes. I want to talk about opportunities. We've talked about the Pew Research Center, which put out, someone put it in the chat, that the pay gap, it's real. In 20 years, we've had a 2% move from 80 to 80%, a gap between men and women. So we know that's not good, but the reality is, and I guess this is just how I deal in the world, it's about helping people understand why. And Isadora, you talked about that in your company. But one of the things I think is so important is to help people understand what change in this really actually means. So it's not about men making less money. It's about being paid equally, or the equity around pay for the same job being well done. That's it. And those kinds of conversations are a lot easier to have than to be, beating people up and saying, just pay gap and all the negatives. So I just really believe that you can change hearts and minds by talking about opportunity. So that's one piece. The other thing is, for everybody out there, we are leaders. No matter what, even if you're an entry level, we are leaders in our organizations. And kind of following on actually what all these amazing women have said is that we have a role and responsibility. We also have bias. So when we are making those decisions, because we become the decision makers, we need to think about pay equity. right? Because we're making the decisions. So it's like we're not handing off all these decision making to men, and they're not expecting that either. We need to embrace our role, and frankly, our role as a role model. And I have to say, I've always been, no, I'm not a role model. And this, I have to be honest with everybody, this group here, when I was asked to be on this panel, I thought, well, first of all, why me? And that's the imposter syndrome, right? But then, then I'm listening to these women, I'm thinking, actually, I need to embrace the fact that everybody can learn from each other, no matter where you are in your career, no matter your leadership. So for me, those things were important. And then I have to be really cheeky here, but I got to share. I don't know if you can see this. There's a book called Leadership on the Line, and it's by Ronald Heffitz and Marty Linsky. They're two Harvard professors, and they talk about leading through change. And you don't have to be male, you don't have to be female, you don't have to be anything except a person who's leading change. And it's all about organizational principles and how can you talk about people and see the big picture and then go deep down and have those one-on-one conversations. So this is, to me, a book. Other book, this book, I've just read it, has transformed me. It's The Moment of Lift by Linda Gates. Highly recommend this. I didn't understand the role of women in the world. And it's not just Africa. It's not just countries that we might say are not as developed. It is right here. Sorry, I'm in the US, but right here in the United States, it's in the United Kingdom. As many of you know, if you are in the United States, that, a lot of women's ability to make decisions on life and having families and when they want to have families is slowly but surely being, kind of taken away. So access to healthcare, access to things from a female perspective. And this book is just, it fired me up that we all need to be having these conversations. So with that, thank you.
Thanks, Kathy. So yes, Alicia, I agree. We'll give her a round of applause there. So we're kind of getting to the end of the hour here. And if you have any questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat. But I think, I want to thank all these women for the inspiring panel we just had. I learned a lot. I thought it was awesome, right? The passion, perseverance, patience is something that I'm going to remember forever, right? Challenging yourself, something that we've just talked about. I think one of the things they did today is they showed us it's okay. Everybody's going to struggle, and it's okay to struggle, right? But you've got to keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. And as Kathy just said, it doesn't matter what level you are in the organization, you can be that person and have that role. And I think what was interesting is each of the panelists that was just talking to us, they really found their way in a different manner, right? Everybody had a different way to get to where they are. So know what you want and take that space, do what you need to do. I hope they showed you that it's okay to be your authentic self, right? It's so important to be your authentic self. So many times we try to be, I'm going to be more masculine, or I'm going to be, to fit in at when we're the only female at the table. Be your authentic self. It's what the world needs. It's what your organization needs. They talked a lot about tools, different tools that they talked about, right? Collaboration, networking, coaching, mentoring, sponsorship, all those things. And there is you guys were on the panel that sat on the panel yesterday. Mentoring and sponsorship are definitely different, right? So making sure that you have mentors, sponsors, even people in a lower level of an organization can mentor and sponsor. And as a mentor, I'm going to tell you that I get as much out of mentoring as I hope my mentee does, because I learn too as a mentor. So, using those tools as you move down your leadership path, as Kathy said, keep connecting those dots, right? Like how do we connect those dots? How do we move forward? Hopefully, I'm hopeful that each of you got one nugget, even just one nugget today of information that you can take with you and use to re-energize yourself and move forward. But again, thank you to the panelists. Thank you all for being here today.
Wow, that was amazing.
That was great. Do we have any questions from our audience? No? Well, please put in the chat if you have any questions. We have people saying that was awesome and that was amazing. So I have one question that I'll ask the group. What was the most challenging moment you've had mentoring somebody? I'll throw it at Christine first, since you've been in the moderator seat.
Oh, geez, come on now. I'm just the moderator today. You know, I think sometimes the most challenging moments you have mentoring somebody is when they have unrealistic expectations, right? And maybe they you want to help them get where they need to be. But sometimes you've got to be good at A before you can get to B. And sometimes they want to jump from A to B really quickly. And I, you know, so that's a difficult conversation to have of, look, you really need to focus here, and then we can work on getting you there. You know, sometimes they don't want to hear that. They just think they should be, you know, at that second point, you know, before they're ready. So I think that's probably one of the most challenging conversations I've had as a mentor, is getting them, you know, to understand, hey, be good at what you're doing, and then we'll get you to where you are, versus trying to rush through, right? Because it's, people want to be that next level, right, and keep going, but sometimes they've got to step back, and that sometimes is a little bit of a tough conversation.
I'm just going to go to order of who I see first. So Kathy, you're up.
I knew you were going to ask me. I'm kind of like following with Christine. I'm thinking about, I was part of the emerging professionals for ASSP, the emerging professionals mentoring program. And the mentee I had was a guy, and I just loved working with him. And I think the greatest challenge was, you know, he was this, you know, this was his direction. And the greatest challenge was to help him see that these are the opportunities, because sometimes people are so closed in what they believe that they need to do. This is tied to what Christine has talked about, that they don't see the possibilities. And I think that, because this person ended up doing something completely different than he thought he was going to do. He thought he was going down this track, and then he ended up, because we talked through all the possibilities. And he even said to me, he said, you know, this is not the mentoring I thought I was going to get. I thought you were going to open up your network, and I was going to touch base with those people in your network. And, you know, I was going to get that next job that I thought I wanted. And it turned out it all turned inward. And he was just really honest. He said, I really never thought about looking at myself and doing a self-assessment. So I think that is really challenging for people, male or female, is to really look at oneself.
Stepping back and looking at oneself. Perfect. Isadora, what about yourself?
So I think in my case, if I need to choose the one that I found more challenging, is a person. In this case, it was a girl. Time ago, early in my career, we were very young, but I quickly identified that person as a great leader, as a great professional, but she was not convinced at all. And no matter what, and I was her boss, no matter what, I was explaining her, you are good, you can progress. She was telling me all the time, no, 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 without any apparent rational, because for me there was no rational behind. So we worked together, or I worked together, because I was convinced that she was so great. I was convinced that she was the one that could replace me, because I'm that type of person that like changing and moving, and I would like to have a successor, a person that will be doing the job great. It was hard, but it paid off, because now I can proudly say that after talking, mentoring, coaching, showing many things to her, she's now in the role that I left when I moved from Spain to Switzerland. And we are still in contact. It was about breaking her own bias, and it was really, really challenging, really gender related, but I feel proud at the same time.
So helping people break their own bias.
Yes.
Wonderful. Carol, what about you?
Very much the same than Isadora. The most difficult was to help a girl to go beyond when I discovered that is with this personal life, she is in a position to be not to be promoted by her husband and the family. This person has always been in a position where she was not really pushed to go beyond the boundaries. And so her position during the moment where we have the discussion was really very much, I'm not able to, I can't do, a lot of no, I'm not the right person to, and that's very difficult to because you know she's great. You even if you put factual evidence of how great she is, then going back in her personal life, there's so much thing pushing her down.
Yep.
That is you have to always reflect of what is great at work and the reason why. But if she's great at work, she's probably great at outside of the work, and then combining at home, at work. But for this person, I know very well, and she's really great professional in the health and safety arena. This continue being with her to continue the journey, and yes, based your mentoring on the factual evidence of how great she is.
That's wonderful. Absolutely. Helping people identify that they are great, not just inside work, but outside of work, that they're a holistic self, and pushing people to get out of that safe zone and into that uncomfortable space. That's wonderful. And that's what it is about being a leader, right? Everything that you've all shared when you're helping others to grow and become the best that they can be. That's true leadership. Now, we do have a question in the question box. Do we have time, Christine, to ask it of the panel?
Absolutely.
Okay, so Jess is asking, what can we do to help our organization take the next step to continue the conversation on sponsorship? So I'm going to throw it back to Christine to moderate this question.
Kathy, do you want to start on that one?
Yeah, I actually would. This is what I do in companies, is try to figure out, and all these are principles applied to everything we do, whether it's a safety initiative or a sponsorship initiative, is figuring out what your current state is. So take a look around your company, because I think this is a really great question. Take a look around your company and figure out, has your company ever done this before? I mean, whether it's not mentoring for women, but in other areas, and find out what was done. Was it successful? Was it not? Find out who the decision makers are around sponsorships and have some conversations with them. And just listening and asking them about sponsorships, and ask them why they think it might be important, and interject why you think it might be important. So it's developing these allies we keep talking about, and then figuring out, it's like co-creating, if you will. So this collaboration that we keep talking about, co-creating what a sponsorship could look like in an area that you would like to focus on, and find those early adopters, right? And then I love Isadora, because she said, and find those people that are the greatest resistors, because those are the people you also, you got to figure out, do they have power, right? What's the role and responsibility? They have authority. Are they the decision maker? And then you can figure out, maybe it's not you that's going to convince that person, but because you've had all these other conversations and some of those early adopters to the idea, they actually can have the conversation, and they may be able to convince them that it's really a good thing. So basic principles, honestly, of organizational development.
Thanks, Kathy. Isadora, do you want to add anything to that?
I think Kathy said everything, but if I can add something to that, is try also to find facts and figure that will support the reason why you want to do that. So people will have the feeling that it's not only you that has that crazy idea that maybe it's not working. So if you are able to find information, data, facts that show that this is something that is worth to do, I think this will also support you in the journey. Thanks,
Isadora. And Carol, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think what has been done within Pernod Ricard before I joined, 5 years ago, it's educating all the committee of director in all the affiliates for our workshop on why gender balance is needed in the company. That has been done. Pay about also pay equity. And that has been done by both a man and a woman, and the man was in the financial part of the business and very much engaged into this gender balance goal. So yeah, educating, continuing, and then with this education came some leadership program focusing on women. So there's a lot of index, a lot of initiatives within Pernod Ricard, because they want it to be deliberate in promoting women at all the level of the organization. So this mechanism at present, we see basically when I prepared this 1 hour together, I get back to the DNI leader for the company, and he basically told me, share your experience. you are the well placed to share about how diverse we are, how diverse, gender diverse, but also working on diversity. And it was true. I think we feel within this company that women have a role to play. We have a voice at the table, at the table of the top management, and we can see that on a daily basis.
Thanks,
Christine,
Carol.
could I just interject? Because Carol,
Yes.
oh my gosh, that was amazing. Benchmarking, right? Tying in Isadora's point about facts and figures, benchmarking with your competition, as well as best in class, which is PINAR, right?
Always, they are very humble, always a journey and always things to do. But I think that's a great job has been done by men and women.
Thank you. So I think that we're kind of out of time here, Tamara. So once again, just thank you to all the women here today and for sharing your stories. It's been fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Wow.
the opportunity.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. And
Yeah.
that brings us to a wrap for the week.
It
And
does.
wow, what a week we've had. So I'm just going to round us up, and Tamara and I are just going to have a chat to just really sum up the week. And it has been a phenomenal week of celebration. I think you've got to have been on another planet to not see all the posts on LinkedIn. But this International Women's Day really has been about embracing equity. Imagine a world free of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination, a world that's diverse, equitable, inclusive, a world where difference is valued and celebrated together as we forge women's equality. We started off this week on Tuesday with a really great session when we discussed imposter syndrome. Takeaways for me was there was a really great discussion on how we bring ourselves from outside of work into work. And I think that theme kind of ran through what I heard all week, right back to early years, and how can we actually work with our young people to bring equity in there, because that very much, we bring that into the workplace. And we bring our traumas, we bring our successes, we bring all of that stuff
Mhm.
that we come with. And it's really important for us to treat everybody as a unique individual. I was able to attend the IOSH North East Scotland branch on International Women's Day, and Deborah Jane Nelson was on there, and she had a great quote, which was "Be selfish with your dreams," which I love, and I'm going to use that for the rest of the year. Equity in PPE, we talked about data, and the next day we talked about being visible. And Rita Housen, I loved what she did. She stressed the importance that networks, use your networks, don't apologize for those networks. And finally today we've had a really great leaders forum where we've talked about, you know, using your power, knowing your power, but accepting your vulnerability. And great lineup today to take away. So I don't know, Tamara, what your takeaways have been from the week.
Yeah, no, I had, you know, when we were talking about the first one, I wanted to just add in there quickly. One of the things that I found was very moving with the mentors. They were sharing their experiences and their short stories. But what was so interesting was this theme about showing kindness, you know, when you are working with others, and making sure that you're helping people to leave better than when they came. I thought that was a very good point about do no harm, but also help people become the best versions of themselves that they could. And an interesting point that somebody else made was when we are doing coaching as opposed to training, this person wants to call it coaching, is also to think about how are you helping people create good habits and laying down the fundamental principles so that people can then go and move on their own and help others. So it's not just like you're helping this one person, but how are you doing it so that it's growing in the future? You know, we had a really great session the second day. And what really popped out was when Rita was talking about, you know, that we have to really kind of embrace equity more. A lot of people are doing diversity and the idea of inclusion, but they all said this during that panel, that equity was kind of like the bedrock, that if you're not removing barriers and you're not helping people get the resources that they need for their unique situation, then there's always going to be something that's holding people back. So how can we make sure that people are receiving what is truly needed for everybody to be moving forward, so that everybody has the ability to grab onto the opportunities that we're talking about? So that was a great point that they meant here. And today's session, I mean, people who are with us, they listened in, so you know the great nuggets of information that was given here. I liked when you were talking about doing deliberate actions, right? We go to the beginning of the session where, you know, we have to deliberately look at, are we helping to promote those who are underrepresented, right? And what can we do as leaders to help succession plan, purposely help people get to those next influential or leadership positions? So that's my takeaways.
So yeah, so it's been an amazing week. Thank you to you, our audience. And I'm also going to give a huge round of applause to Tamara, who has worked so hard in the run up to this. Tamara, you've done a phenomenal job. Thank you so much for making this all happen. We've had lots of people from OneWiSH in the background as well. Louisa, Melissa, Malcolm's been there as well. So thank you to the whole OneWiSH crew, and we've had an absolutely phenomenal lineup. If you are listening now and you didn't catch our other sessions, then they're available on the OneWiSH LinkedIn page and will be on our YouTube page in due course. But, you know, let's just carry on this discussion, and I'm really hoping that people have networked throughout our sessions and have met some new people and created some new ideas, because we really are stronger together. So thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye all.
Bye.